AstraZeneca withdraws its COVID-19 vaccine after acknowledging in court documents it can cause thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome. In Palestine, authorities registered more than 1.4 million people displaced in Rafah as Israeli forces continue their operation against the enclave. And in Russia, the government highlighted that the Eurasian Economic Union's trade growth is a sign of its effectiveness despite sanctions imposed by Western countries. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Mexico, in the next presidential elections, almost 20,000 public offices will be renewed all over the country. More than 98 million Mexicans will go to the polls next Sunday, June 2nd, to renew the presidency of the Republic, the Senate, the Chamber of Deputies, and the governorships of Chiapas, Guanajuato, Jalisco, Morelos, Puebla, Tabasco, Veracruz, Yucatan, and Mexico City. The candidates for the presidency are Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo of Sigamos Haciendo Historia, Bertha Xochitl Galvez Ruiz as representative of the coalition Fuerza y Corazón por México, also Jorge Álvarez Maínez for the national political party Movimiento Ciudadano. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador called on citizens to exercise their right to vote on June 2nd.
And on Sunday, June the 2nd, we have to vote. Yes, we have to vote here. We all have to vote. It is voluntary, but it is very important to participate.
The Mexican president preferred not to comment on Argentina due to differences with its government.
I don't want to comment on that because we have known differences with the government of Argentina. And I don't want to quarrel about it. Once he referred to me and I answered him. And that's where we left off. And it will be up to the Argentinians as it is up to the Mexicans to judge their governments.
AstraZeneca withdraws its COVID-19 vaccine after acknowledging in court documents it can cause a rare side effect. The Venezuelan government had already denounced this, refusing to receive the vaccine back in 2021. The fact could pave the way for a multi-million-pound legal payout. The pharmaceutical giant is being sued in a class action over claims that its vaccine, developed with the University of Oxford, caused death and serious injuries in dozens of cases. TTS stands for thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome and causes people to have blood clots on a low blood platelet count. Also in Venezuela, Sucre municipality, citizens rallied in support of candidate and President Nicolás Maduro. Vice President of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, Diosdado Cabello, led a massive mobilization in support of the re-election of the Venezuelan president. Social movements took part in this rally in support of the candidate who, in their opinion, represents the choice of the Venezuelan people against the candidate who represents the interests of the U.S. government. Demonstrators also rejected the imposition of U.S. unilateral coercive measures against the country.
We have come to visit you, to see your faces, to greet you, to hug you with love, with respect, with admiration to a people that never surrenders, never, ever. The liberator came to Trujillo state when history was at its worst, and here his morale soared. Father Bolívar signed in Trujillo state the regularization of the war and the armistice document written by Antonio José de Sucre. The name of your municipality. But here Bolívar came with his known values to mountains that he knew like no one else. Here, in this state, the liberating army was recognized for the first time by the Spanish invaders.
And many voices continue to condemn the decision of the Argentine government to remove telesur from open digital television. Journalist Horacio Embón called to say no to censorship against the multimedia.
Hello, my name is Horacio Embón, a journalist, and this message is to say no to censorship, no to lifting telesur from open digital television. Long live freedom. Is it understood? No to censorship, yes to freedom, and telesur, yes to the open digital television screen. Is that understood?
Writer and teacher Hernan Rafah said that democratic governments are not built by silencing the public media.
A government that bets on the censorship of public media is not a democratic government. Javier Milei closed the lamp, silenced public media, and now wants to eliminate telesur from open digital television. Let's defend plurality of voices. Let's defend democracy, not to the exclusion of telesur from open digital television.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Wednesday, the Brazilian government reported the death toll from the storms that have affected the state of Rio Grande do Sul since the end of April rose to over 100 people. Authorities also reported some 128 people missing and 372 injured. The government added that more than 230,000 people have been displaced from their homes, of which 63,700 are in shelters and 163,000 in family or friends' homes. So far, the state has 417 out of its 497 municipalities with storm-related issues. In Honduras, the Secretariat of Risk Management and National Contingencies declared on Tuesday a red alert due to high atmospheric pollution in Tegucigalpa, the capital of the country. The authorities reported that there is poor air quality due to a dense layer of smoke that affects the health of the capital's population. This situation is caused by the burning of land for agricultural purposes in the region, some forest fires and pollution from vehicle emissions. The institution declared a green alert for the rest of the country for an indefinite period to monitor the phenomenon and protect people's health. A strong heat wave hits El Salvador, where thermometers recorded temperatures of up to 40% degrees Celsius. The highest so far this year. Authorities of the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources reported that high temperatures have been maintained since April, representing an unprecedented record of over 41 degrees Celsius during the next few days, especially in the afternoon and early evening. More than 700 people have been evacuated in Uruguay as a result of heavy rains and floods. According to the country's national emergency system, the rains and floods have blocked roads and affected the water and power supplies in several regions of the South American nation. On the other hand, the Meteorological Institute issued an alert on the rains and storms that are expected in the next few days. In Kenya, mandatory evacuations of communities near rivers are underway due to the danger of flooding. The evacuation order was issued by President William Ruto after hundreds of people died as a result of the floods. The government set up shelters and implemented a financial aid plan in several areas of the country to protect and assist the affected families. It also ordered the construction of 20,000 houses for the families who lost theirs during the weather event. In Palestine, more than 1.4 million people are currently displaced in Rafah, southern Gaza, as Israeli forces continue their genocidal aggression against the coastal enclave. Many in Rafah have been displaced several times during the 7-month war and are now heading back north after Israeli forces called for the evacuation of the eastern part of the city, home to tens of thousands of people. Life for displaced Palestinians has changed completely, with streets empty and markets destroyed. In addition, many Gaza residents are homeless.
The situation is very hard. All the schools have been evacuated. Everything has been destroyed. Over there in Al-Nirma, in Al-Auda, there was a complete evacuation. There is no sign of any life at all there. Humanity is doomed. There is nothing there. No markets, no life, no food or water. People don't know where to go anymore. The Israeli army threatened Rafah after they have finished their operation in Khan Younis. They destroyed Khan Younis. They want to take us back to destruction, back to the Stone Ages. There is no more infrastructure, no water, no electricity. As people, our rights have been violated in every aspect. In everything, our rights have been violated.
The African Union condemned Israel's military operations in the border town of Rafah, south of the Gaza Strip. In an official statement, the multilateral bloc strongly rejected the offensive by Israeli troops, which resulted in the blockade of humanitarian aid. The statement expressed concern over the thousands of deaths and the systematic destruction of the quality of life of the Palestinians due to the aggression of Tel Aviv. The organization urged the international community to coordinate collective actions to stop Israel's advances in the only passage allowed for humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. In the United States, police forces detained students during a pro-Palestinian demonstration on this month on encampment at George Washington University. Approximately 33 students were arrested during pro-Palestinian protests. This occurred hours after demonstrators marched to the home of the president of George Washington University to ratify their rejection of the Israeli genocide against the Palestinian people. It is important to note that tensions have increased in clashes with the students, which has generated a broad rejection in the student community. In the same context, students in Belgium hold demonstrations in support of the Palestinian people and against the Israeli genocide against the Gaza Strip. Demonstrators demand to the university authorities to break ties with Israel for maintaining its genocidal actions against Palestine. During the day, students have taken over several areas of the university with the aim of having their demands heard. In this context, mobilized students reiterate their rejection of the recent attacks by Israel. It should be noted that these mobilizations have been reported all over Europe.
We therefore have three main demands. The first is an end to all links and collaboration between the ULB and Israel. The second is a transparent list of all these links, because we are not sure that we are aware of all the links there are, so that we can have a critical opinion and be able to give our verdict on them. Thirdly, we call on the cancellation of the visit of the former Israeli ambassador to our campus, who has been invited by the rector.
We have a short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Short break, don't go away. Welcome back. The Russian government emphasized that the trade growth of the Eurasian Economic Union is a sign of its effectiveness despite the political sanctions implemented by Western countries. Russian President Vladimir Putin affirmed that during the 10 years of work in the international organization, trade barriers were effectively relaxed and the stability of the region was maintained in the midst of the global economic crisis. In this regard, Putin said that the gross domestic product of the member countries of the Eurasian Union increased from $1,600 billion to $2,500 billion during the decade of joint work. He also mentioned that the volume of mutual trade has almost doubled from $48 million to $89 million, where more than 90% of the payments are already made in national currencies. The Russian government accused the European Union of inciting terrorism after the bloc backed Ukraine's alleged right to attack the Crimean Bridge. The spokeswoman for the Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, described as unacceptable the statement of the European bloc and said that it not only demonstrated the bloc's support for the Kiev regime, but incites Ukraine to maintain its attacks against Russia. Zakharova stressed that the European Union openly ignores its own international obligations and becomes an accomplice of Ukraine's terrorist activities. She also noted that the European Union has admitted that there was a quick solution to the conflict, but they don't do anything to put an end to Kiev's hostilities. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel and the President of the United Russian Party, Dmitry Medvedev, met Wednesday in Moscow to review the progress of their countries' bilateral political relations. During the meeting, both leaders highlighted the satisfactory relations between the United Russian Party and the Cuban Communist Party and the potentials for their political development. On the other hand, the Russian representative sent his greetings to the Cuban Army General Raúl Castro and said that Cuba has always been a strong symbol of how to fight for independence. Medvedev also congratulated Miguel Díaz-Canel on the 64th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the Soviet Union and Cuba. During his speech at the Eurasian Economic Union Summit, the president of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, stressed that the international organization is an example of successful and sustainable integration in the economic sphere.
Cuba appreciates that in the 10 years that have elapsed, with significant results in all areas of interaction, the Eurasian Economic Union is a successful, attractive, and sustainable integration project. Macroeconomic indicators such as an aggregate gross domestic product of $2.4 trillion, the almost doubling of mutual trade between member states, and a 60% increase in foreign trade turnover, to mention just a few significant data, are proof of this.
The President of China, Xi Jinping, and his Serbian counterpart Alexander Vučić signed on Wednesday a joint statement on building a China-Serbia community of shared future. Both countries agreed to deepen their bilateral relations and enhance the comprehensive strategic partnership between China and Serbia. The leaders also signed a series of cooperation documents in the areas of construction, ecological development, digital economy, e-commerce, among others. In this regard, the Chinese President Xi Jinping assured that the objective of the agreements are to realize the aspiration of the two peoples for a better life in social and economic spheres.
As a Serbian proverb says, mountains do not meet, but people always do. Similarly, we Chinese say, distance cannot divide true friends who are thousands of miles apart. Mr. President has warmly invited me many times to visit friendly Serbia. And I'm here today, as promised. Good friends should meet and communicate more often. During this visit, we will sign a joint statement on deepening and upgrading the China-Serbia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership and building a China-Serbia community with a shared future in the new era, so as to open a new historic chapter in bilateral relations, standing at a new historical starting point. A brighter future for China-Serbia relations is unfolding.
On Wednesday, Cuba's 31st edition of the Artistic Youth Festival came to a close after 7 days of concerts, exhibitions, and cultural expressions from the participating countries. The closing of the Romerías de Mayo took place with the planting of a new tree of friendship in the city of Holguín. The multicultural event concluded with a closing show where delegates from 10 nations bid farewell to the edition and called for the next one. Shouts for peace in support of the Palestinian people, book presentations, and more than 20 parallel events were held during the 31st edition of the Artistic Youth Festival. Thousands gathered in the southern French city of Marseille to welcome the Olympic flame ahead of the Paris 2024 Games. A magnificent three-masted ship carried the Olympic flame from Greece. The first to carry it on French soil was swimmer Florent Manodou, who handed it to Paralympic track and field star Nantin Keita. President Emmanuel Macron met with French Olympic athletes who sailed in Belém with the Olympic flame on its arrival in Marseille. From the port city, the Olympic flame will travel to various French cities before arriving in Paris on July 26th for the opening ceremony. And also on Wednesday, Real Madrid secured a place in the final of the UEFA Champions League after a stunning 2-1 comeback against Bayern Munich at the Santiago Bernabeu. Joselu rose as Los Blancos' hero, scoring both goals in less than 3 minutes in the final hours. After a 2-2 draw in the first leg in Munich, Alphonso Davies opened the scoring for Bayern in the 68th minute. Coming from the bench, Joselu scored in the 88th and 90th. Real Madrid, the king of the European competition with 14 titles, will face Borussia Dortmund in Wembley's final. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TTS English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.